as my credibility until 2004, when the foremost clinical expert on the hormone leptin.
Oh yeah, you had two people that came in your life that were doing the studies.
And he found out what I was doing and said, do you know what you're doing? Because he heard me explain that appetite would drop off and energy would come back and sleep would just return. And he said, you're resensitizing people to a hormone called leptin, which wasn't even discovered until 4 years after I'd harnessed it myself. But starting around 2004, the research has exploded, 8,000 studies now. And the most famous is that it's the satiety hormone, but it also neutralizes overimmunity, autoimmune problems, heals the dopamine pathways, that pathway that makes you either addicted or motivated. Once you heal it, you regain your motivation and your addiction tendency goes away, and also makes you relaxed and makes you sleep and all of many, many more things.
Right. So I just want to mention, not that we had to really mention, the two people that stood out to me that verified what you were doing in that is Jeffrey
Jeffrey Friedman, I only met him, so really it would be Dr.
But it was
Rosedale.
Yeah, I had both of those names down, but yeah.
It was a coincidence that I met, Jeffrey Friedman, who discovered leptin.
Yeah, he did he did rodent studies.
He did rodent studies, and I even heard the results and was introduced to him by a colleague. And I said, oh, that's not, I didn't even think about it as having anything to do with what happened to me because it was so multidimensional. The multidimensional ability of when you regain sensitivity to that hormone leptin were not even discovered until even 10 years later, pretty much.
Wow. So I want to just a little more. So the total transformation, which we talk about, this change is in really the approach of eating. I mean, it's like, not low carb. It's not low carb. It's, can I say it? It's high fat. Am I allowed to talk about it? Okay. I don't know what I get to talk about. I don't get to talk about it. But and like you said, people are like, it's going to be a hard shift for some people at first because they're thinking, oh, I got to do, I can't have this and, fat free and
Well, a lot of people torture themselves going through the transition because it's not intuitive, it's anti-intuitive, and they might hear you say it's high fat. Yes, it is. And yes, it is low carb, but man, that's such a relative term, It is extremely low carb. But I need to say that the greatest dietary studies, the largest in history, the Swedish Council on Health Technology Assessment, they did a 16,000 study, the largest in human history, and also the A to Z study in 2004. These studies found without a doubt that actually the lower you go in carb, and carbs are not listed in essential nutrients for human beings, and yet we will get it from plant foods. You can't say I have a no carb diet, but very high. The higher fat, as long as you go low carb at the same time, the more healthy in all ways.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I was going to ask you about this, because if you have high fat but a lot of carb, it's not going to work.
Because the minute that you have a sip of juice, for example, even wheatgrass juice.
Well, also you talk about, which not freak me out, but because I started taking it to other levels. Like when you're working with kids, it depends on each person. You have the Tarzan person or whatever.
Yes.
But sometimes a tincture in something can throw it off.
Metabolically
like
challenged.
if you, let's say I was doing this, and I said, oh, I'd like to take something homeopathic for my cold.
A pellet
well,
with the
they
sugar.
It can throw the whole thing off.
And I didn't want to believe that. I just saw it.
Well, when you're working case by case.
Yeah.
So
because I have the empirical study over 17 years at this point,
right,
living along with people 5 to 10 days at a time, 6 to 8 times a year.